Before phone, before social media swallowed everything whole, kids actually went outside. We rode bikes until our legs burned. We stayed out until the streetlights flickered on. We did stupid, reckless, beautiful things. And sometimes, the night did something back. I was 13 years old. It was a Saturday night, the kind where you don't want to go home, and the summer air gives you permission to stay out just a little longer. 3 of the guys went home. Me, Tony, and our friend Rob. We weren't ready to call it a night, so we rode to the park. It was only 5 minutes away. And there was something about riding bikes at night that felt different, quieter, freer, like the world belonged to you and no one else. The park was our place, tucked between patches of woods on 3 sides, open to the street on the 4th. No neighbors close enough to see us, no one to call the cops if we got too loud. It had a baseball diamond, a couple of old benches, a small set of bleachers, and a playground. We always hung out on the playground. There was a slightly raised hidden section where we could sit and talk for hours without being seen from the street. That night, that's exactly where we settled in. We were mid-conversation when Tony suddenly went quiet. Shh. Did you hear that? We froze, listened, nothing. Tony said he thought he'd heard a footstep, a thump, something on the playground that wasn't one of us. We looked around. No one was there. We laughed it off, sat back down, kept talking. Then, we all heard it, a thud, somewhere on the playground. We weren't laughing anymore. We stood up, walked the entire structure, called out into the dark. Hello? Is someone there? Silence. And that's when it got worse, because the next sound wasn't a thump. It wasn't footsteps. It was a voice, a child's voice, coming from inside the slide. You know those old twisting metal slides? The enclosed kind? That's where it came from. We had been at that park for nearly half an hour. We had not heard a single person climb into that slide. We had not seen a single child anywhere near the playground. I walked over slowly, leaned close to the opening, and asked, "Is someone in there?" A voice answered back. "Hello." Small, soft, like a toddler. My friends heard it too. We looked at each other. No one spoke. I leaned in again. "Do you need help?" Nothing. So I climbed in. I figured a little kid had to be stuck in there. There was no other explanation. I slid down slowly, waiting to feel a small body around every curve. But when I reached the bottom, the slide was empty. I checked the ground, circled the playground, looked into every shadow and every corner. There was no child, no footprints, no rustling, nothing. No one could have run away that fast, not even an adult, and definitely not a toddler. We stood there in the dark, completely silent. And then the voice spoke again, from inside the slide. It said, "Catch me." We ran. I have never pedaled a bike that hard in my entire life. No words, no looking back, just the sound of tires on pavement and our own breathing, and the dark rushing past us on either side. We made it back to my house and piled into the backyard, gasping. We kept our voices down. My dad was already asleep, and the last thing we needed was to explain what had just happened to a grown adult. Honestly, we couldn't explain it to ourselves. We were still trying to make sense of everything when we heard it. Someone was knocking on the backyard gate. Not banging, not panicked, polite, patient, like they were asking permission to come in. "Who is that?" I asked. A woman's voice answered from the other side. "Hello? Were you guys just at the park before?" My stomach dropped. There was a small gap between the gate and the fence, just a sliver. I walked over and looked through it. Standing on the other side was a middle-aged woman. She had a smile on her face, not a kind smile, a wide, frozen smile, the kind that doesn't move with the rest of the face, and she was already looking directly at me through that tiny crack. Like she knew exactly where I'd look. I stepped back, swallowed. "No, sorry. We weren't there," she said. "Are you sure?" Tony answered for me. "No, we weren't." "Okay," she said. "Thanks anyway." I waited a moment, then looked through the gap again. She hadn't moved, still standing there, still smiling, still looking right at me. We went inside and didn't come back out until morning. My friends slept over. None of us said much. We just sat in the dark, downstairs, listening. We told ourselves there had to be an explanation. Maybe a kid had wandered off from his mom. Maybe she'd been searching the neighborhood for him. But that doesn't hold up.